I confounded you because I'm the devil.
The cognitive dissonance is the Spirit of the Lord telling you to back away.
If you don't understand it, it must be evil. Calculus, this shit is the devil.
Tell them we're not going to take it anymore between the hours of 2 and 6. Hello and welcome to the Church of Awesome.
The church to end all churches.
I am the Archangel Michael. I will be conducting today.
Yeah.
Presiding, we have the Demi-Pope Chris. Also joining us today is Cardinal Imam Spencer, son of Hagar.
Peace be upon him.
Also joining us for some reason today is Bill. Today's topic is...
How to keep people stupid. An instructional guide for aspiring despots.
Leading the discussion today is the Demi-Pope.
So why would someone want to keep someone else stupid?
To take advantage of them.
That seems like a pretty good...
Concise answer.
It's a pretty good sum up.
Sorry, did I blow our wad?
Yes. So, keeping people stupid means that you can take their stuff and you can, take advantage of them in a variety of ways, all of which make you a despot. Or a tyrant. Or a pope.
Yeah.
Or a Republican.
When I hear the word despot, usually the phrase that comes to my mind is redress of grievances. That if you are like running a police state, you can do whatever you want, and people have no way of getting redress for the grievances, no way of getting their complaints heard, no way, no recourse at all.
Yeah, well, this would be one step before that even, into them not realizing that there's even a grievance to be addressed. So if you keep people stupid, they won't know that you are raping them.
It's a subtle tyranny.
Yeah, if they don't know the definition of rape, then they don't know when they're being raped. Anyway, so if you want to keep a population stupid, here's a few things that you can do. Feel free to try these at home. So if you make people dependent on you for knowledge, if you set up a system in which everything that comes from you is the truth, everything that comes from anywhere else is not.
Basically setting up a propaganda mill.
Exactly. So you say like, hey, this is official, true information. This is canon, if you will. Anything that is outside of this, that's from a source that's not official, is, you're supposed to doubt it, be skeptical of it, suspect it.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've talked about this before with, there is the stuff that we're allowed to read. Anything that says the church's name on it is the gospel truth. It was written by and or approved by the prophets and apostles. And everything that doesn't say on them can be questioned, should be.
Well, it's like, as long as it agrees with the official stuff, then yeah, sure, it's good stuff. But if it says anything different, then it's heresy.
But if it's like Mormons are less than perfect.com, then it's clearly of Satan. And that Satan is running an active campaign against you.
Don't get ahead of me here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just taking it to its logical conclusion, Dickweed.
Yeah. Well, actually, that brings us quite nicely into make people suspicious. Because if you've got this devil figure that's always out to deceive you, and can trick you into thinking all sorts of different things, into thinking what you've been told is wrong, they can be suspicious of any source of that information because they know that the, official sources are always true. The Catholic Church or the canonized scriptures, the holy books, wherever they're saying that their authority comes from, that is infallible, and anything else can be suspect.
Yeah, they do this great job of creating this dichotomy where, you get these people who all think that they're being really skeptical and really suspicious of everything, but then there's this one glaring thing that they have just no skepticism about.
Yeah, it's one thing that's very interesting that they'll use the same, like if we start talking to a Christian about Islam, they'll have the same grievances that we do.
Exactly.
But as soon as we switch the topic over to their church, they're like, no. Yeah.
We're not like them at all.
Yeah. Well, they'll even use the same methods of criticism that we would use. And they recognize them as valid forms of criticism, as long as they're not turned on their own stuff.
Yeah, it's easier to be objective about your enemy.
Yeah. So if you make people suspicious about everything else, about these other religions, about anything that's not from a quote unquote valid source, then you can say all this stuff comes from this devil that's trying to deceive you, actively trying, so that you're always on the lookout for the trick. So things that sound very reasonable, but you know can't be quote unquote true.
Yeah. Look for the buzzwords like polygamy, and you'll know it's Satan.
No, it's just anything that's like, hey, if that you get that feeling of being confronted with contrary evidence, they learn.
That's the Holy Spirit telling you
That-
to be on guard.
Yeah, exactly. That's God telling you to, hey,
Yeah, all that cognitive dissonance that you're feeling.
yeah, exactly. That's coming from the devil. Yeah.
Yes.
I love the cognitive dissonance is the Spirit of the Lord telling you to back away.
That uncomfortable feeling you have.
For God's sakes, don't learn shit.
Just withdraw into your little hermit crab shell.
Yeah, that reminds me of something you said before about the Book of Mormon when we were talking about could this have been written by a farm boy? I'm like, well, if you read it, yes, because if you read it not assuming that it's this transcendental work and some divinely appointed thing, you could see it for what it is, just hack storytelling and just made up or revisionist bullshit history.
And it's the same thing that you can easily spot a cult when you're outside of the cult. But you can see all the stuff, but the people that are inside, you're looking from an inside perspective, and so you can't really tell.
Yeah, one of the stupid dorky things I used to say when I was bearing a testimony is that I knew the Book of Mormon was true and I could feel it. I didn't even have to read it. Just holding it in my hands, I could feel the spirit.
I feel the force is strong with this book.
Yeah, it was a lot like that.
The force is telling me that Dianetics is the way.
Yeah.
But it trains you to be suspicious of your own thoughts. If you have if you start to doubt, then the very fact of you doubting is the devil inserting his thoughts into your head. And it kind of turns you into a pawn in this game between, a devil and a god.
Yeah, one other important thing to note is that they say the devil is the author of confusion. So whenever it's something you don't understand or don't feel at peace about, you can know for certainty that it's from the devil.
If you don't understand it, it must be evil.
Yeah, and when you read something that confirms what you've
Calculus,
already been
this
told,
shit is the devil.
Yeah, when you read something that is confirming the same shit you've heard since you were 6 years old, you know it's from God.
Organic chemistry, that's from the devil.
Yeah.
Well, anything that's new is going to be a little bit confusing if it's the least bit complicated.
Yeah.
So it makes this really convenient way of keeping people from seeking new knowledge.
That's a good point.
That brings us on to our next topic, actually, of killing curiosity. Because humans have an intrinsic need to learn. So that's something that you're going to have to subvert if you want to keep people stupid. Yeah, see, all that smoking's catching up with you.
I know.
But so if you kill curiosity, if you can get people to not be curious, then you've basically done your job. I mean, that one thing will strike a critical blow to keeping people stupid.
Yeah. There's actually this big need in our minds to make sense out of the world around us. And this is the reason why people rubberneck at traffic accidents. Because there's this whole big thing, it's this big ordeal, you gotta wait. You have to know what caused this. It's just, you're driven to find out, to make sense out of the world around you. And so you turn your head and you stare at the accident as you go by and go, oh yeah, that guy bumped into that guy. Okay.
Is that all part of our sense of equity? That I feel I've been cheated out of this time. I need to justify it by at least some epic looking accident.
Yeah,
or,
at least that fucker died.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, sure.
I wasn't necessarily going for that angle, but the quote unquote prophet Joseph Smith used to say, everything is an appendage to the atonement. Basically, what he did is take a very simple concept of a scapegoat and made everything center around that. So everything you study will eventually lead back to that one simple concept that has you running in circles, not learning anything new, just learning more facets about this thing that you already understood when you were 10. And
So it's not that fucking difficult.
So it's just trying to link whatever new thing you discover to a central concept that's already been established.
that's a great way to murder curiosity. It's because there's nothing new to learn.
Well, because you're working
thing.
from the outside in rather than the inside out. So
Yes.
you discover a fact and you try and link it back to something you know, as opposed to with curiosity, you try and discover what unknowns, what questions are are posited by this, and then what questions that those posit, and what questions, and so on and so on and so on. So one can make an environment uncomfortable for questions by creating oversimplified, overarching, and vague answers that are all-purpose and meant to stop the line of questioning without answering anything.
Sounds like Sunday school.
Exactly. That sounds like the old God did it thing, the God of the gaps argument, where as soon as you get to something that you don't know, you can just say, "Oh, God did it." So when children will ask you, it's like, "Hey, Mom, why is the sky blue?" And you're like, "The sky's blue because," and they go, "Why? Why?" They do that why questioning, and eventually they're going to get to a point where you don't know, and eventually they're going to get to a point where just nobody knows because you go far enough in any one line of questioning, and you get to what we're studying right now. So if you can just say, "God did it," now shut up, then you can effectively end that line of questioning. Children will learn that asking questions doesn't yield results. They keep getting the same answer.
And that's way easier than trying to explain to a kid how light refracts through
exactly.
the atmosphere.
And one of the things that they'll say they do this is like, "Oh, we want to keep the flow of the class going, or I have an outline to get through, so I can't answer questions that are
Which is
extremely
true
important."
because it's like, well, there's when you're teaching, you don't want to be interrupted with questions all the time. So say, save all your questions for the end.
Yeah.
And if you've prepared a good lesson, then you will have accounted for the fact that it's like these are the things that they need to know to understand the next thing. So if you get one question that starts taking you off into another direction, you don't want to address it because it's going to take you down a tangent that you're not going to be able to get back to where you wanted to go.
Very true.
So, in your bonus time after class, during recess or whatever, then you can address that other line of questioning. But the thing is that they don't say...
Yeah. They don't give you opportunity. They give you no redress of grievances. But they also, when they consistently minimalize you, marginalize you, and discourage you from asking questions throughout the entire lesson, no matter what the question is, they're doing something wrong.
Well, the thing is that they tend to not say, "Hold your questions till the end," or "I'll get to that later." They tend to just say, "Oh, that's just what God wants," or "God did it that way," or they give a really oversimplified, easy to understand, but not actually, meaningful answer. So another thing that you can do to kill curiosity is put people in groups. In a one-on-one situation, you can have a discussion, but if it's one person in front of a group of people, the group dynamic, this is what sociology is all about. A group will behave significantly different from an individual. Yeah. In groups, people don't want to ask questions because they think that it makes them look stupid. And you can reinforce that by whenever someone asks a question, you make them feel stupid.
By saying, "Jesus, shut the fuck up."
Yeah. Where you don't encourage, asking questions that, you can make it seem like you do, but as soon as someone asks you a question, you should react negatively to that, so that will ingrain in the group that
make an example out of someone.
That it will just make them uncomfortable asking questions.
Well, groups are a really useful tool for any kind of homogenization that you're looking to create, because you tend to have group polarization, and whenever like-minded people start getting around, their ideas tend to polarize towards the extreme end.
Yeah, and they'll reinforce each other's.
Exactly. And we're such social beings that the fears of ostracization,
being ostracized
is so great that the conformity kicks in, and we just want to be like everybody else. We want to be accepted. We want to be loved. And so even though I have these thoughts that I think are different than everybody else's, I'm going to be quiet.
Because you don't want to be, because, you could be cast out for having a different, because you're you're identifying yourself as not part of the group.
And the counter to that is, in these group situations, whenever you do have a dissenting voice, that tends to sway the rest of the group hugely. Everybody, we're taught to think, and the way our brains kind of work naturally, you think that, if you stand out, you're going to be just shunned aside. But what ends up actually happening is, if you do stand up and you do take a stand against these ridiculous things, it tends to get other people thinking, and everybody else goes, I had these same questions.
It's the whole Emperor's New Clothes thing, because I think a lot of people misinterpret that story, because it's not like people actually thought that the emperor had clothes. Everybody could see that the emperor had no clothes, but they all thought that everybody else
could see the clothes.
could see the clothes. And so they didn't want to stand out. As soon as one person said, hey, the emperor's got no clothes, as soon as one other person knew that one other person saw that he was also naked, then they were comfortable with, with addressing the fact that he was in fact naked.
So they did this great study back in the, 70s or 80s on group dynamics. And basically they had this like 10 people in a line, and they would do this study, and there were these 3 lines, and you'd say, okay, line A, is it closer to is it the same size as line B or line C, or something like that, or which one's the tallest, something like that. And you go along, and everybody, and they would always go down the row. Person 1 said their answer first, 2, 3, 4, on down the line to person 10. Well, what person 10 didn't realize is they were the only person being studied. 1 through 9 were all cohorts in the experiment, and basically 2 through 9 would say whatever number 1 said. That was what they were told to do. And they'd go along, they'd be giving the right answers all the time. And then all of a sudden they'd get to one that it was obviously, the answer was C. Number 1 says B, number 2 says B, number 3, they say B all the way down the line. And like 98% of people will say B, even though it's obviously C.
That's like they like to ask the audience.
Oh God, I'd never do that in a game show. It seems to me like, with the one person being able to sway a group, it's really just reassigning the alpha male. Because you have like, for example, a Sunday school teacher, he's the alpha, everyone's in there listening to him. But if some guy stands up to him and points up and proves this Sunday school teacher obviously wrong, and it's like a jackass.
He supplanted the alpha.
He is exactly reassigning the alpha.
He's leading the insurrection, leading the rebellion.
The thing is, you don't really even have to beat the teacher, or just
have
being
to,
a dissenting voice. Just the presence of that voice there lets everybody else who's got dissenting questions.
It lets them know that the environment
let them know
has
they're not the
changed.
only one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my God, if you're still going to church because family reasons or whatever, make yourself the annoying one that they try and make look stupid.
Yeah. If you have to go, you might as well have fun with it, right?
And you might as well try and make the environment such that other people are more comfortable.
We'll make it a healthy
questions.
environment for discussion as opposed to just a brainwashing seminar.
Yeah, ask perfectly logical questions that makes their houses of cards fall down. Oh, I almost want to go to church now. Thinking about that.
But yeah, killing curiosity is really kind of the crux of it all. There's a lot of demonization of curiosity. It's curiosity killed the cat. It's like, don't be so curious. Why are you so curious? And curious is also curious. It's also it's just like, oh, that's a little curious. It's like suspicious. There's
Yeah, that's queer.
Curiously,
There's another one that
yeah.
gets.
But yeah, the demonization of curiosity is really an attempt to control individuals and groups.
Do you think that people think that curious people are impossible to please? Do you think that might be part of it? Saying like, oh, he's never going to be satisfied with any answer. He's just going to keep on asking questions because he's an annoying prick.
It's like, well, yeah, because there's always more to know.
Yeah,
Well, that sounds like one of the tactics that they'd use to try and spread to
Cast them aside, to just say, hey, curiosity is annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's all these questions. It gets people thinking, and that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, why can't you be satisfied with God's wisdom? It's infinite. Obviously, because I said so.
Yeah. Well, he told me.
You see, every answer you ever need is there because God did it. You don't need curiosity. Yeah, curiosity is obsolete. Now sit back and relax as we commune with the spirits. Why did I just say that like George Takei?
Oh my. What are you drinking?
So, today, once again, I'm on call for work. I regret nothing. I am communing with the spirit of A&W root beer, and I enjoy it very much. Big old glass of root beer with ice. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
And I'm communing with the spirit of Lafroig Quarter Cask. It's similar to the Lafroig that we have reviewed earlier, except that it's aged in a very, very small barrel so that it gets more of the wood characteristic faster. So it's a young spirit, but it still has a lot of woodiness that you tend to find in older spirits. It's an interesting kind of comparison to see what of older spirits is the wood and what of it is the age.
Yeah, because it still maintains a lot of the peat of the. In fact, it's a harsher, fresher peat than the 10-year because it is younger. It's a no age statement whiskey, but way more oak.
And it's stronger. It's like 55%.
All right, today I am communing with the spirits of Target brand candy cigarettes and the Macallan 12-year single malt.
No, it's a horrible habit. You really need to stop.
It is, you know.
Yeah, going to Target. It's a terrible.
I'm up to like a 3 candy cigarette a day addiction. Almost half a pack.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So I found these candy cigarettes, local little shop here. Hadn't seen them since I was like 5. I thought they were illegal.
Yeah. Did you get them out of a vending machine?
Yeah, in the 60s.
So I got them for nostalgia's sake, and they're, you know,
Did they taste like that Lick-a-Maid stick sort of thing?
pretty much a little more powder sugary than that.
Yeah.
But
I
it
was
doesn't
just
really go with the whiskey at all.
I was just disappointed when they didn't release a puff of smoke when you blew on them like the old candy cigarettes did.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've gone soft.
They were 50
Yeah.
cents. What can I say?
Yeah. So we're talking about curiosity. Let's move on to the creating a one-way communication system. So
Like praying?
if you have everybody sit, you know, in a circle or at a table facing each other, then you're creating an environment where the exchange of ideas is the point.
Yeah, you're literally
So-
facing each other and
Now, when you're sitting in a cathedral or a stadium or, you know, somewhere where there's an individual on a podium who is speaking to, addressing a large group of people, you're not going to stand up in the middle of that and ask a question. You're there to learn. You're automatically setting yourself up as a student in that position. But a student who doesn't ask questions because of the environment.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, because I know everyone's always complaining about public schools' class sizes are too large. I found that in college, my favorite classes, the ones that I enjoyed the most and got the most out of, were forum classes. Where
Well, you're just weird.
I am weird. I'm also the asshole who would ask questions, and because like I paid for this, I want to learn shit. Anyway,
Well,
like,
forum classes tend to be the better teachers have the forum classes because people want those, or maybe they just scale it down so there's not as many teachers.
Or a lot of times they're the more popular classes because they're more interesting.
There's a lot of classes that lend themselves well to that. You can't really have a forum class about
Calculus.
calculus.
Or no,
because
sorry.
A lot of
You can't. It's
but
tough to have a group discussion on calculus. It's a lot easier to have somebody stand up and tell you about it.
but like if you, I had a forum
What
class.
does a derivative mean to you?
Well, I think integrals are actually. I think once you get into the more advanced mathematics stuff, then creativity comes more into play.
Yeah.
But certainly in theology, that lends itself to asking questions and stuff like in-group discussion, because there are a lot of things that don't make sense and you have to resolve them in different ways to make them make sense, and they won't make sense to everybody.
Well, you have something like a history class. That seems like something you'd want a bunch of people talking, because history involves economics, archaeology, anthropology, sociology, a bunch of different disciplines. And so you can't just make this one linear line. It's like, this happened, you know.
This caused this, and then this caused this.
Because
and
it didn't just, it was, you know.
We're going to study the series of dominoes falling that, you know, led to today.
Yeah, time is more of a wibbly wobbly.
And then if
Timey-wimey
Vietnam
kind of,
falls,
yeah.
then Southeast Asia falls, and then we're all communists. Quick, arrest all the actors. Different domino effect.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good. So creating this one-way communication style and just this power structure by virtue of environment, that's all part of, you know, reinforcing the killing of curiosity, making people feel uncomfortable asking questions, because you're not going to stand up in the middle of a sermon, you know, when you're the 32nd pew back, you're not going to stand up and go, I have a question. How come? Da, da, da.
It's like, why does God need a starship?
So we can follow the comet. Come on. Hale Bop is moving really fast.
Yeah. So there's also just trying to co-opt everything, just to saturate someone's existence with you were talking about it earlier about drawing everything back to a central idea of an atonement, that you create a central idea around which everything is based. So you tie every single thing.
Like,
Back
what
to
about
it.
rain? What does that have to do with the atonement? Well, you see, the rain is
God crying because he got
Because you
stabbed in the
masturbated.
hand.
No, it's things being washed clean, just like your sins are washed clean by the atonement. Asshole.
And also co-opting things that already exist, like Christianity.
Morality.
Well, yeah, exactly. And Christianity has a history of going into areas where the native people had different celebrations, different customs, different
Christmas
whatever.
trees.
And so they would just, instead of trying to convince them that what they were doing was wrong, they would co-opt those symbols and those tales, and so that they would. A lot of times, the stories of the saints were just the local heroes that say, "Oh yeah, those were saints of Christianity."
Yeah.
And these are symbols of Christianity, like the Tannenbaum and the Yuletide and all that stuff.
Wasn't that the origin of the
Easter
Celtic
bunny.
cross, where they were sun worshippers and they just put a cross right on top of it? Thought I heard
Could
that
be.
somewhere.
Sounds about right. That's pretty much what Christianity did. Is it spread through Europe?
Just kind of stamping itself upon the existing culture,
Yeah.
not trying to just overtake it, but just trying to gently infuse itself in.
No, see, you
So
were
that it can
already
get a foothold.
Christians. You just didn't know it
Yeah.
yet.
That God that you worship, he's actually one of ours. So,
Yeah,
and he looks like this. And these are his symbols.
Oh my God! And the Paul said on Mars Hill, the unknown God that you ignorantly worship. Yeah, that's our God. Oh my God, you retard. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I won't go into why that's incredibly stupid, but
I was Paul on Mars anyway. So co-opting saturation. So you need to make sure that the lives of these people are completely saturated. And when we're saying this stuff, it doesn't only apply to religion. We're kind of looking at it from a religious perspective. But you could do the same thing with like communism, party loyalty, all sorts of stuff. That you just make sure that everything that they are totally saturated with an ideology.
sure. On your way to work, you should be listening to right-wing radio, and then at work, you're listening to right-wing radio, and then when you get home, you watch Fox
Beck, yeah.
News and let yourself get angry. So every moment, don't have time to think. All you're thinking about is how the president is running this country into the ground. Whether or
Yeah,
not
and it was
he
the same thing
is.
with communism. When you look back into the history of like the Eastern European communist bloc,
Yeah.
that it was very much like that. It was the same messages being repeated, and it was making sure that every activity you did, you were doing it with an eye single to the glory of the communist system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you think about Lenin, communists in Europe and Russia looked at Lenin a lot the same way that Christians viewed Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they buried him like he was a pope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was practically worshipped.
Yeah.
Do you think they like prayed to him?
Well, they
Had shrines in their house?
they tried to get rid of religious symbology just so that they could say that atheism was the official religion, that there wasn't an official religion, so that there was
there is no
room-
God. I'm God.
Well, it was like there is no God, but I'm the closest thing you'll get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't have. They had to eliminate religion so that there would be room for them to take over.
So the state would take the place of the religion.
Yeah. See, that was one of the big problems that. Hitler tried to do it the other way, where he tried to co-opt Christianity and use their symbols, and then the communists tried to move it out of the way and replace it with these with socialist propaganda. But making sure that every night of the week there's something going on at the church that will get people there thinking about the church, getting them to say prayers before they eat every meal, so that they're connecting the act of eating with the church. And but
'cause-
everything they do has to be connected to what you're trying to get them to believe.
Even the way they look at doing tithing is, we're not giving God 10%. He's giving you 90%.
Yeah.
Everything you get is from him. Oh, that thing that irritates me is like,
It's like, no, my boss gave me 90%.
yeah, oh my God, it's that bullshit where it's like, oh, so you have a wife and kids and you're in a decent house and you got a good job, so you think you did all that, huh? No, God did it. What? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you had nothing to do with my success. Fucking bullshit.
while we're on this tangent, my favorite one is when somebody's sick and all these doctors do all this work and perform surgeries, and there's all this medication that goes into it, and they recover. And oh, thank God that they recovered.
Yeah, it's that priest of blessing really works.
Don't thank the doctors. Don't thank the pharmaceutical companies that developed these drugs that kept you alive.
I saw this awesome special on this group of doctors that was allowed to go into North Korea and do these operations that were restoring people's sight. So there was, I think it was cataracts or something like that they were going into, just as a humanitarian mission. And one of them was a reporter disguised as one, so had hidden camera footage all the time. Mm-hmm. And the people that were being treated, as soon as they got healed, they went up, not to the doctors, but to the big picture of Kim Jong-il that was in the room and saying, like, thank you, great leader, for letting this happen. Which it's like, well, yeah, technically he was kind of right because he let the doctors come in, but he didn't do anything. He just stopped preventing the doctors from coming in.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, co-opting everything, connecting everything to the ideology that you want to propagate. The other thing is repetition. And also repetition.
And what else?
Repetition.
Praying morning, day, and night. How many religions have
book over and over and over again?
How many religions have like set prayers? I know Catholicism has like the Lord's Prayer. Mm-hmm. What's that?
73.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, most of them try and get you to recite things because you need to.
Yeah.
You need to get people to keep
Hail
repeating
Marys
things
and All Fathers and
because you can definitely get
whatever
people
they
to
are.
stay stupid by having them repeat lies over and over again.
Yeah.
Right.
So, or if you have an argument that doesn't make sense, you just get them to keep repeating it, and they won't realize that it doesn't make sense. They'll just start to accept it. I'm sure there's a psychological background of that.
Well, it's how cognitive dissonance works. The Cliff Notes version is essentially that actions speak louder than words or thoughts. And so whenever your actions and your cognitions are in dissonance with one another, you feel some way different than you act. It creates stress. And that we have two ways of relieving this stress. We can either change our cognition or we can change our actions. And 99.999% of the time, we change our cognitions. So the repetitive act literally stamps out any cognition to the contrary.
Yeah, and that's repeating an action as opposed, it's really the same thing, repeating an action or repeating words.
Yeah. Well, speaking the words could be an action.
Or getting people to think the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
You're kind of ingraining that thought into their head. They go into church or the indoctrination center of your choice and have the same thoughts. Mm-hmm. Like they're activating the same thoughts in your head, and so those relays in your mind keep getting activated, and it's like memory.
Yeah, one of my dad's favorite things to say when people talk about the church is just live by its principles and then you'll know that it's true. Yeah, exactly. Let the cognitive dissonance kick in. This is why fraternities have initiations that are so brutal. The more brutal the initiation, the more committed the person will be to it.
Yeah, that's kind of the sunk cost thing where it's, I've done all of this for this, so this must really be worth it.
Exactly.
Investment justification.
Yeah.
I have a completely, probably not even related example that I was going to ask about with that. Say you have a guy who cheats on his wife. Is the act of going back to cheating more, is it overshadowing his ideas that marriage is a good thing and that...
Well, maybe, or he'll justify it some other way, like, oh, well, my wife's a bitch anyway. She doesn't.
Well, the classic one is that you cheat on your wife and then you treat your wife as if she cheated on you. You're very suspicious of her. Yeah. You try and create this thing in your mind where it justifies it because she's just as bad.
That's why he's projecting. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And it'll also to like give your kid $28, to go to the movies, like, here's extra money, and it's almost like paying for your sin.
You have to balance the scale.
Like I said, the change of cognition isn't necessarily to coincide with the act. It's to relieve the stress caused by the dissonance between the two.
Yeah, by the two being different.
So any way you can justify that away will suffice to remove the cognitive
Yeah,
dissonance.
because it's way easier than changing your behavior.
Yes. It's a lot easier to say, oh, my wife deserved it. She doesn't give me sex often enough, than to stop sleeping with hookers, for instance.
Just off the top of my head. Like,
Yes.
I mean, I've heard.
I hear
There's also repetition.
that effect. Seems like I've heard that before.
I think this is a good time to mention that we are here every Thursday on churchofawesome.com. Catch our next podcast next week.
When we will tell you what weekly prayer to say.
That is one of the challenges of rationalist movements, is that we're trying to get the exact opposite. We're trying to get people to be smart instead of being stupid. So we're taking all of these things which are, tried and true over thousands of years, and we're trying to turn them on their head and say, like, how do you make people be smart? You just have to stop these things from inhibiting them.
Yeah.
Create environments in which questioning is a good thing. Because I've been to a lot of skeptical events where they're set up the same way as a church would be, and there's someone up at the top talking, and no one's really asking questions. No, and at the end of the discourse, everyone just repeats the same things. That it's just like, this is just a different kind of indoctrination.
Yeah,
it's not a healthy environment for questioning. So it's hard to break free of these different molds that have been set for controlling groups, and build from the ground up these kind of debate groups, because they will inherently seem unpleasant, because it's like, hey, all these people arguing. It's like, no, we're not arguing. We're just trying to reach a common consensus. We're asking questions because we want to be questioned with everything.
So what is the cure for stupid?
Oh, I wish there was a cure for
eugenics.
stupid.
I would say education is a good cure for stupid. But
Well,
you
really,
gotta want it.
mostly I think it's just not getting inhibited by these things. So it's removing the inhibitions, making it so people can ask questions at any time when they don't understand something, and they feel comfortable doing it. And people like being corrected. They don't want to be ingrained into a certain thing.
Yeah. Always be ready to adjust your schemas and your paradigms. And you don't assume you know everything. And if you talk to someone who disagrees with you, listen to them. Maybe there's something of value in what they're saying. Instead of saying, you're a fucking retard, then no one wins, because they think you're a fucking retard and you think they're a fucking retard.
And then you both walk away having learned nothing.
Yeah, and in a way, you're both fucking retards.
Yeah, and certainly when they're having a debate, if they're just repeating the same stuff, that's just nonsense.
Yeah, if they're just in send mode and it's obvious, okay, there's nothing I'm going to glean from this.
But I mean, I always try to learn stuff from the people that I talk to. If I seek out people who disagree with me, and I try to understand their point of view, to see why they disagree with me. Because I think just because it interests me, and just because I like to be corrected. Because there's a lot of people that would rather be right than be corrected.
Yeah, and those people are fucking retards.
So it's you have to be comfortable with being corrected,
Yeah.
getting kind of the ego out of the way.
Yeah.
And hey, that's another way to keep people stupid.
What's that?
Teach them that they're awesome.
Yeah.
Build them up to saying, like, it's like, you have all the answers. You are the chosen people. You are awesome.
Yeah. Make them nice and arrogant.
But the thing is, the more you learn, the less awesome you tend to feel, because you're like, oh, we're just this accidental growth on the face of a rock in this insignificant part of a galaxy that's in an insignificant part of space.
Yeah. Like, I am considerably less impressive than originally thought.
Yeah. And it's, you have to take that in stride and say, it's like, okay, from this point of view, you know, I am wrong about a lot of things. And I know I'm wrong about a lot of things, and I will spend my whole life being corrected. But it's way better to spend your whole life being corrected than spend your whole life wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Now get ready to rage with our fatwas of the week. Was that radio douchey enough? Is that good?
That's about right.
It's okay.
So this week I will be declaring jihad on there is an effect that's done in modern movie trailers that is driving me insane. It's that the most recent example, 2 examples that I've seen it are the Planet of the Apes trailer and the Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol trailer. You see, it has become cliche. It used to be a cool effect you see in like a Bourne movie where it would do a quick fade out to black and then fade into a cool shot, fade out to black, fade back into a cool shot, and it would move seamlessly and create this excitement. But they're doing it in stuff that it doesn't make any sense anymore, like the Planet of the Apes one, and it's often accompanied by this like alarm kind of sound, like a wah, go to black. Wah.
Inception music?
They did it in the Inception trailer too, which was when it was starting to get old. So they do, yeah. Wah. Yeah, so in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes one, it does it, but it just goes on for too damn long. The real problem is it really comes to obnoxiousness in the Ghost Protocol Mission Impossible trailer, which I'm super excited about that movie. But what it does is it goes through, instead of doing the alarm sound or the wahs, it's playing like a song. It's like and the gaps of black are too short, so it cuts to something you don't have enough time to orient to what the hell's going on, then a black again, then it goes something that's going way too fast, you can't orient on it, and then bam, and it's going along with music, and that one's actually not even very well done because it doesn't go in time with the music, and it's just fucking irritating because it's coming up a lot more. It's gotten old, and very few trailers are actually getting it right, and it's
so what you're saying is that movie companies are now doing the same thing with their trailers that they're doing with their movies, which is just rehashing the same idea over and over again and not coming up with anything new.
You're running a good idea into the ground, yeah.
Okay. I never thought it was that good of an idea to begin with. In fact, I hate basically everything that's involved in movie trailers. They always use the same, like, 4 or 5 songs.
Yeah. And it's always the same shot where you have someone
with
jumping.
No tortillas.
Yeah, it'll always have some it'll always have some actiony shot where someone's jumping on something from real high, then it's gonna cut to him making out or fucking some chick. Like, regardless of what the movie is, it's always gonna be the same stock shots.
Yeah, it makes every movie look like the same movie. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, let's go over the top with all this excitement. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be exciting. God, look at all this. Look at something's blowing up. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it pisses me off.
Get down!
Yeah.
Get down again!
Optimus! Fuck that movie so hard.
Yeah. Fuck every movie. Every movie sucks now.
Diary for a year.
Yeah. I should declare fatwas on movies. But I won't. I'm going to declare jihad on my computer because it died. So I guess it's kind of too late. But that fucking computer stole some recorded fatwas from another episode. So now I have to record something else. And boo.
Wah!
But yeah.
Wah! I'm sorry.
How come that computer can't be reliable?
Wah! You see how annoying that is? Fuck that trailer shit. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm having fun.
This is exciting. Oh my god.
I can't wait to see this movie.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Really? Already? Okay. This week I'm going to declare jihad on the Germans. So, Germans are an interesting folk. They're obsessed with procedure and schedule and order. And there are ways in which things are done and there are ways in which things are not done. So, for example, they decide that the air traffic controllers are going to go on strike. And so they schedule it from 6 a.m. to noon. And then I end up stuck in an airport for 5 hours.
They scheduled their strike.
Yes.
Yay.
Well, we don't want to put anybody out. We just want to strike.
Just for 6 hours.
We want to make our point, but not inconvenience anybody. Tell them we're not going to take it anymore between the hours of 2 and 6.
They only want to inconvenience people for a very specific amount of time. That's it.
So, lots of diarrhea this week.
Well, that's delicious.
Lots of diarrhea.
Yeah, we got
everyone.
a whole country. That's a first.
We'd like to thank you for joining us here at the Church of Awesome. We have been awesome. You're also awesome on occasion. We will leave you now with the gift of tongues. Squiggly thing that looks like a dog with little ears on it. And then a little loopy thing that goes guy diving off a swimming board thing. Same diving guy. A snake that has a some kind of tumor on his back. 3 dots. Long line, more dots. Couple of U-looking things. Pac-Man. Squiggly line, more squigglies. Another snake with a tumor. Squiggly, squiggly. End of quote. Oh god, I'd never do that in a game show.
Well, it was like, there is no God, but I'm the closest thing you'll get.
Quick, arrest all the actors.
I'm sorry, I was just taking it to its logical conclusion, Digweed.
The Force is telling me that Dianetics is the way. I am wrong about a lot of things.
The comments made by the hosts and other participants are the opinions of the individuals and not those of any corporate entity. All data and information provided in this program is for informational purposes only. The Church of Awesome makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis. If you like what you've heard in today's sermon, come visit us at churchofawesome.com or follow us on Twitter at COA Podcast.
Wow, you see how annoying that is? Fuck that trailer shit. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm having fun.
This is exciting. Oh my god.
I can't wait to see this movie.